Breaking the stigma of mental health awareness. It was the late 1950s when a man named John Nash was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. At that time, John Nash was a prominent mathematician and professor at MIT. He also made several groundbreaking discoveries in the field of science. But everything changed after this diagnosis. The life of that man went upside down. John had to suffer twice because of his illness and the stigma associated with it. On one side, he was struggling with his mental illness, and on the other side, he had to battle the stigma created around it. For example, John had to stay without work for years in his very own field and was refused several positions because of his mental condition. He also became socially isolated and alone in his life. Many people were afraid or uncomfortable around him because of the very stigma. Despite all these challenges, John Nash stayed determined and went on to become a prominent figure in the field of mathematics and economics, eventually winning the Nobel Prize in 1994. But his story doesn't stop here. Throughout his life, Nash also advocated raising awareness for the mentally ill and this painful stigma around them. The story of John Nash teaches us how positive support can help the mentally ill and how this stigma can further break these already suffering patients. And it is just one of the millions of stories that we don't know. Mental illness is a real issue and millions of people suffer from it daily. Many of them don't share this to avoid the embarrassment and negative perceptions associated with mental illness. It just further adds up to their plights as they'd have to fight alone with their demons. Mental illness is not what you think, and today we are going to reveal the hidden realities of this matter. We can break through this stigma by understanding mental conditions. There are numerous kinds of mental conditions out in the real world. Some of the common ones are anxiety disorder. You have heard the word anxiety commonly in your life. Everybody can have a little bit of anxiety, but when this anxiety creeps into daily activities and starts disrupting them, it becomes anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorder is a common mental condition with an estimated 275 million worldwide patients suffering from it. It is a condition that causes excessive fear, worry, and apprehension in a person and also leads to excessive sweating, trembling, and even panic attacks. Unfortunately, there are several stigmas around this condition. Stigmas that say anxiety is just being nervous or stressed and not a real condition. Patients are just making up. Another stigma and myth created is that people having anxiety disorders are weak and unable to handle stress. These stigmas undermine the core of this problem and result in ignorance of the pain of the patients. This also results in anxiety patients self-blaming and hiding their illness. We must remember that anxiety can be cured and managed with positive social support. An empathic and supportive attitude helps patients to seek treatment and validate themselves. This also elevates some of their pain and empowers them to stay in the ring. And when there is no one to understand their pain, it causes more agony to these poor patients. Depression. Depression is another commonly used term, or to be precise, misused term. People often misuse it for temporary sadness or feeling down. Whereas, the fact is depression is much worse than that. Depression is a disorder of mood, and it drastically affects the way we think, feel, and behave. People suffering from depression face long phases of negative states like sadness and hopelessness. They also lose the ability to enjoy their things. Moreover, depression affects all aspects of their lives, causing a lack of energy, appetite, and disturbed sleeping patterns. Depression is a major mental issue, but sadly it has also been stigmatized in society. There are different misconceptions and stigmas associated with depression and its victims. It is believed that depression is just sadness and that depressed people are weak to cope with their issues. This is not true, and this misinformation weakens the patients and may hinder their process of seeking help. Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is another severe mental condition affecting over 20 million people worldwide. It is a disease in which the patients are unable to interpret reality normally. They face numerous obstacles in their interpretation of reality because of these things. Hallucinations. Hallucinations occur when the patients start seeing things that don't exist in the first place. They may also hear, smell, or feel unreal things. Delusions. Schizophrenic people have strong beliefs which are false, and they also seem illogical to others. For example, in the case of John Nash, he had this delusion that he was working with the U.S. government to stop communist plotting. Besides these two problems, schizophrenic patients also face thought disorder and movement disorder, which cause abnormal talking and abnormal body movements. These are some of the prominent issues these patients face, and the list of their agonies is too long to mention. But this list is further extended because of the stigmas attached to schizophrenia. Stigmas. One common stigma against these patients is that they are violent and chaotic. This instills negative perceptions about them in the minds of other people and causes hindrance in their recovery. They get socially isolated and even self-stigmatize with negative stereotypes. All this can be avoided by increasing awareness of this stigma and by explaining this mental condition. Bipolar disorder. A very strange kind of mental illness is bipolar disorder. Patients of this condition swing between two extreme poles of mania and depression. They are either extremely high or extremely low, emotionally. These mood swings disrupt their lifestyle, including thinking, sleeping, and behaving patterns. They also face episodes of mania and depression, which affect their work and social life as well. This illness can also cause insomnia, loss of interest, a storm of negative feelings, and even suicidal thoughts. It is a serious ailment, yet it can be controlled by treatment and a supportive environment. But just like the other ones, bipolar patients are also stigmatized in society. They are often portrayed as crazy in movies and books. This portrayal helps create stereotypes about bipolar patients and makes their life more miserable. They are perceived to be violent and harmful, and who wants to come closer to seemingly harmful or dangerous people? OCD. OCD, or obsessive-compulsive disorder, is a mental condition in which unwanted thoughts and ideas keep recurring in the minds of people and force them to do something repeatedly to stop these thoughts. It is like a mental prison in which a person gets stuck and is forced to repeat actions to get out of it. This illness has two components, obsessions and compulsions. Obsessions are the thoughts or fears that repeatedly agonize the patients and force them to take action to reduce their distress. The repeated actions then taken are called compulsions. They could be anything from washing hands for the fear of contamination to checking locks for the fear of danger. These patients also face stigma in the form of self-stigma and social stigma. This may cause to stop them from sharing their issue and calling for treatment. Conclusion. These are some of the major mental issues prevalent in our world. People suffering from them can't tackle them without social support. So if we want to help these people, we must break the stigmas that have been attached to mental illness. We can do this by understanding these issues and raising awareness about them in society. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and let us know your thoughts in comments box.